Okay, can we begin the second? Can we begin the second part of our ideas in action? So, could we begin, please? So,
You go like that and then stop.
you will have your time to continue the conversation with Dan and Alisha, but before we can get to that, we have this brilliant panel here sitting in front of us, and I have trouble with my right and left. To my left, we have Babak, who actually may be of interest to you to know that he has, in the last 1.5 years?
1 year.
1 year, represented about 100 investors. He's a patent attorney, and one of the career achievements is safeguarding a startup company. And he secured a 200 million judgment against Microsoft. So, Babak, Adriana is a financial advisor, and she has worked internationally, and she has had supported her spouse overseas, and now has a thriving business as a financial advisor. And Ross is Mason-Dixie. They are biscuits. If you come from a British background, don't make my mistake. Last night I was really excited. I thought they were biscuits for tea. I find that they are actually Southern biscuits. Nevertheless, American biscuits from the South. But he is the owner of one of the fastest growing local food suppliers, brands, food brands. So with that, will you welcome our panel? So I'm going to start off by fire off the first question and ask them to give us a quick snapshot of what their business is. Babak.
I do. Okay. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. I'm not sure about brilliant. Far from it. Actually, I'm an entrepreneur myself. I used to be a partner at a big firm for a long time before I started my own law firm, which is fastest growing law firm, I would say. Last year, and from one we have grown to 7 members, patent attorneys, scientific advisors. Oh, thank you. I told you I'm going to forget this push button. Patent attorney, scientific advisor, patent agents, and what I do by way of my background, I used to be an electrical engineer, so it makes sense for me to do patent law and deal with innovations. Most of the inventions I deal with, pretty much everything, I have seen everything, but mostly is in the area of electrical engineering, from consumer products, mobile devices, mobile communication, TV, semiconductors, digital circuits, boring stuff to exciting stuff like Windows. I mean, I started this new design, new window panel design, which I can't talk about very much, but it's very cool. And be tuned, you may see it on your homes soon enough. So what's so exciting about me? I guess I get to see the products before they get to hit the market, like before the DVD came out. This was long ago. Remember, we used to have the cassette player, and then they're like, "Oh, this can be done on DVD." But what I was going to say, I guess I got derailed a little bit. Far from brilliant. I just know the key to success is hiring people that are smarter than you and get all the recognition for their work. That's what I did. I hired people that are smarter than me. They're doing an amazing job, and I get all the credits.
You have a room full of potential hires.
Yeah, that's a brief introduction about me, please.
Adriana.
Good afternoon. Here, and thank you, Matuna, for having me here. It's a pleasure to be here. I am married to someone who works with the World Bank, and I am a member of WBFN. I do work as a financial advisor. I have been in the financial services industry for now 15 years in the United States. And what I do is I help people with their investments in the stock market and also with retirement planning. I have 3 wonderful children. We have been in DC now for 2.5 years, and as I said, in the US altogether for 22. Thank you, Yvonne.
And Ross?
Well, yeah, thank you for the invitation. I'm sort of a startup junkie. I've worked for several startups in the last few years. Prior to that, basically a lifetime ago, I worked for KPMG. I was a healthcare analyst, and I worked with private insurers as the Affordable Care Act was rolling out. Not finding a lot of excitement in that realm, I started delving into the local food scene. My partner works for the World Bank. He's been with the World Bank for the last 15 years. I started delving into the local food scene. I launched my own gourmet nut business, which was rolled into another business. I helped a local bagel startup kind of get their footing, and now I'm a managing partner for the fastest growing local food brand Whole Foods has ever seen, called Mason-Dixie Biscuit Company.
And if I can give you a hot tip, order directly from Ross.
Yeah, I'll give you a good deal. I'll definitely give you a good
That's
deal.
much better. Okay. And so I just want to ask you, the panel, a question from that before I ask the floor how they would respond to your introduction. Is that how did you choose to link with Dan and Alisha? How did you choose the legal entity for your setup? Because we heard earlier you have a choice between LLCs, corporations, and sole proprietorship. So what kind of legal setup do you have?
If it's okay, I can start. So I work with a company that is nationwide. It has presence nationwide and also in Canada, at some point in the United Kingdom. So I've been with this company for now 5 years. The reason why I chose to be here, it's someone asked at the beginning, what's a franchise and what is involved in having a franchise. And while the company I work for is not a franchise, they have a model or a recipe that you follow. And so I'm hired as an employee, but all the nuts and bolts of having a business are put there by my company. What I need to concentrate on is always in growing my business and serve my clients as their advisor. I think that the difference between, for me, starting my own business and going solo and starting with the company I started was I wanted to have a legal backup of a company and a company that had the experience to running a business like the one I wanted for over 100 years. And I think that for those of you who asked about the difference between franchising and starting on your own, that's something I would say. I mean, if you go, there are pros and cons to everything and advantages and disadvantages, but having a franchise in a way will help you just concentrate on your business because you have to just follow the recipe. It's time tested. When you start on your own, you may have more flexibility, but then you have to do everything. You have to wear many different hats. So that's how I chose the company I work for.
Thank you. And what about you, Ross?
Sure. So for the first business I had, I LLC'd. I just took advisement from an accountant friend. And it's actually very common for most food businesses, especially when they're operating within a metropolitan area, when they're not, in a lot of different states, just to LLC. For Mason-Dixie, we've also LLC'd. We LLC'd in Delaware. We'll be having to change that model, though, because we're opening up several brick and mortars in different states. And we'll be probably transferring to a C Corp under advisement from our lawyer and our accountant. So,
What about you, Babak?
Well, as I said before, I took the insanity pill going from a partnership at a big firm to solo LLC. The first thing I had to think about, and which we kind of touched on, was the name. One thing you guys have to be careful, okay, LLC, before LLC there is a name. What's the name of your company? What's that trade name? And I was, as a trademark patent attorney, I was concerned that the name I choose doesn't infringe on anybody else's name. That was one concern. But another concern was I wanted to be unique. So I did a lot of Google search to find the name that I wanted, and hand to hand with that, domain name registration. I wanted to pick a name that has available domain name. Now, any of you has tried to register domain name, almost everything has been taken. I mean, everything. It took me forever to find a good name. But once I did LLC, I think Stephen touched on it. exactly right on point, limited liability, because I just wanted to protect my personal assets against any claim that may be brought, hopefully will never be brought, against my law firm. So I do the LLC. It's fast, it's easy, it's quick, especially if you do it in DC. There is no governance, there is no article of incorporation. You have an article of organization. There is a form called, correct, Stephen, that you have to fill, but that's it. Other than that, it's fairly simple. That's why I did it.
Oh.
But you have to do, I did PLLC because legal firms in DC require to do professional LLC, but otherwise it's the same. It's just the name, there's a P in front of it.
So thank you. So do you all have a burning question in response to what you have just heard? Otherwise, we will go to the next question. Anything you've just heard that sort of strikes you? Yes, one question.
In the food industry that you mentioned, you chose the LLC and you chose which kind, the S?
No, for the first one, I was sole proprietor, LLC sole proprietor. I was like, for my nut business, I was the only employee. I was the sole owner. For Mason-Dixie, we have a different structure because we have 3 managing partners within the LLC. But like I said, because we're opening up brick and mortar locations, and we have now presence in Ohio, Pennsylvania, and other states, and we're expanding to the West Coast, we're going to have to change our structure. And this, again, was like advisement from our lawyer and accountant, which kind of exceeds my expertise. That's why I pay them, so.
Okay, one more question on this topic, and then the rest, okay, we'll take 2 questions, so quickly.
And looking back at your experience, would you say that there is enough flexibility to change from one type of incorporation to another, or would you recommend to invest more time prior to think of this perfect structure for your expansion?
Well,
Which of you
anyone?
want to answer? We've got 3 experts here.
well, I'm not sure along the lines of brilliant. I'm not sure if I'm expert when it comes to corporation. I defer to Stephen on that. But LLC fits, or PLLC in my case, fit the practice that we wanted to run. We didn't anticipate changing in the future. Now, for startups that we work with, I can tell you, starting LLC may be easier, but as the startup grows and they want to assign equity, percentage of equity in the company to other companies, LLC is much more difficult to deal with. It's very hard. I think in those scenarios, you want to have a C corporation where you can assign percentage of equity much easier. Correct, Stephen? I defer to you.
Yes, that's exactly right. First of all, it's not a big deal to transfer the form of entity from one to another as long as the business remains the same. It's something called a tax-free transaction as far as the IRS is concerned. But as Babak has said, if you are actually getting to the point where you're going to be looking for venture capital, which is large amounts of money, most venture capital firms do prefer that the entity be corporate. There are many exceptions, believe me. But in general, at that point, an LLC typically will convert to a C corp, and it's not a big issue. It's just something that happens at that point.
Thank you. So one quick question,
Hi.
and then we have to move on.
Just a very quick question to Ross. I think because we touched upon a little bit of the structure of your company, and your partner is at the World Bank, could he potentially invest? I mean, maybe that's the case or not in your company, and could he get profits, and to what extent is that possible?
I don't know. I wouldn't have him. I don't want his money. I don't want. We keep that very separate. I don't know legally if he could, but I definitely would never ask him to. So, but that's probably better if we were C corp, because that would be an equity assignment, right?
Well, the question I hear is, if I could repeat it, as a World Bank staff, as a World Bank spouse, if you need the World Bank staff to fund your business, how does this happen? Or can it happen? So I don't know whether you as lawyers have a quick answer. I could hazard one, but I won't, in the interest of being politically correct. So we will move to the next question. If you're considering to become an entrepreneur, what kinds of skills and disposition do you think would be helpful? I mean, what sort of thing helps you to be a successful entrepreneur, in and of yourself, your skills and your personal attributes?
I think we all have different skills. I think one thing that when you start a business, you need to be very mindful of, and we all probably have heard this, is it takes about 2 to 5 years to really be profitable. So if you start with that expectation, then you know how hard it is at the beginning, and you're willing to put the effort and the work without seeing necessarily the return right away. So persistence, I think, is very important, and we shouldn't discount the emotional roller coaster of what starting a business is. Most of you are in a foreign country. You have arrived not too long ago, so the cultural changes that you have when you come here. And I would also say, I would agree with Babak to say that you associate with people that are better than you, and they are experts at what they do, and because you can't do everything. So if you want to do something successfully, you want to have a team of successful people.
Thank you.
And I'm going to add to that. I think everything Adriana said is correct. I think having a good idea is maybe 5%, maybe 10%. 90% is just the team, and having the right team and being able to promote yourself. And that's one thing I think a lot of us, including myself, I'm going to put that in the group. I'm not sure about the rest of you, but definitely me, lack self-promotion. I mean, I think from early on we have been taught bragging is a bad thing. Good girls don't brag. Why do I brag? People, if I do a good job, people notice it. I think I forgot to press this. Where is Matuna? Okay, I think quite to the contrary. I think there is people that know how to skillfully brag about their skills. Maybe brag is not the right term, but self-advocate. They tend to be a lot more successful in the business than others. I don't know how you feel as a...
Yeah, just to piggyback off of that, like no one's going to be your biggest cheerleader other than you. No one's going to advocate for your business more than you are. So you got to get the name out there, and also don't be afraid of no. You always have no if you don't ask. You get the yes, I think, something like that. Yeah. You always have no. Don't be afraid of it. You're going to hear no a lot. Yeah. So get used to it. Yeah.
Do you have anything else you want to add, Adriana?
I mean, I agree with Ross. You have to be very strong and know that every no is getting you. I know this is, tried and everyone says it, but every no will get you. You're getting closer to a yes by every no. And if someone says no, it doesn't mean that you go somewhere else and you get another no. But you create resilience. You have a vision that's bigger than all the rejection that you're getting. And I think that's very important. Like with Ross, I mean, I've tried his biscuits. They're wonderful. We need to be in our own different fields. Someone once told me you need to be a marketing machine. You're your own marketing department. So you're going everywhere marketing your business. I've tried his biscuits. They're wonderful. So, it's one day he just brought them to one of the WBFN events, and then you create advocates by just promoting yourself and your business without bragging. Well, sort of bragging, but, we all enjoyed them. So.
May I add one more thing?
Please.
Since we talked about Kentucky Fried Chicken, I am reminded of this story, and I'm not sure how true it is because it has passed through several mouths before it gets to me. And you know how the stories changes substantially when that happens. But when I moved to the United States in 1997, somebody told me there was a guy, kind of older guy, who knew nothing but how to make nice fried chickens. And he's like, okay, I'm going to make a restaurant out of this. And he approached many investors, got more than hundreds of no, till he got that to one yes. And he was the KFC guy. I don't know.
So not only that, but he was in his 60s when he started his business. So
See, he was an older guy then. I thought so.
On that note, there's hope for us all then. But anyway, question. When you hear this, do you have a question for them? Because if you don't, I do.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Okay, you first.
Sorry, two quick questions. It's because I was a lawyer.
Easy, please. Easy
Yeah.
questions. I only take easy questions.
Easy questions. I was a lawyer and now I'm in the invention place, you know.
Okay.
So I'm designing pieces, fashion, jewelry, and these kind of things. So one quick question is like, separate the name of the label from the business name. Is it a good idea? Yes or no, and why? It's because I have an intuition that the label, imagine the label is going to be, well, the label is Mónica Quiroga, and for the billing, I was thinking in NQ Designs. I don't know why. I have had the intuition that it will be a good idea for the future for me to protect the brand in case whatever.
The answer, as most question in law school, is it depends. And frankly, we say that because we can never be wrong when we say that. But if you only have one product, my advice to you is, I'm going to answer to the multiple product, is probably best to name the product after the trademark, and the trade name could be the same. It's better for marketing standpoint. You get the name out just from practical standpoint, not legal standpoint. Now, if you're going to have multiple products eventually, then you can't name all of the product the same thing. So eventually, maybe the first product would carry the name of the company, and the rest is going to be some other name. But I think Stephen alluded to this. You need to register the trade name. Well, you don't need to, but you can trademark the product name, and you can also register the trade name with the U.S. Patent Office, with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. It's a good thing to do it because it gives you exclusive right in all the U.S. territories, all within the United States, regarding that name. But if you don't do it, then you are limited to the market that you are operating in. For example, if you are only operating in Maryland, then that trademark or the trade name is only getting the protection within Maryland. Somebody else can use the same name, even same service in Texas, for example. But if you do the registration, somebody else cannot use the same name in Texas. It won't be able to do that. So that's just from a legal. So there were two practical advice and a legal advice on that. Hopefully that answers your question. If not, and then there is another thing.
Can I ask, how much does it cost to register the trademark and patent outside?
Well, if you go, that also depends. If you go to a big law firm, it costs a lot more, and if you go to a smaller law firm, it tends to cost a lot less. I would say somewhere for a trademark, trade name, somewhere registration would cost around $1,000 to $2,000. Not more than that. If you're getting quote more than that, then come to me. There is another aspect that people often miss is design, patent designs, and they were put on the map. Nobody was really talking about them till Apple versus Samsung lawsuit came about. Do you remember, guys? Apple sued Samsung for the design of their iPhone, and they won a huge sum of money. So now a lot of people file design applications for their jewelry, for example. They file design applications for the ornamental design of things, anything. And they tend to be much cheaper than the patent application, which use utility application, which are much more expensive. Design application, again, a couple of thousand. Utility application, 6,000 to 8,000, I would say. Utility application can be technical inventions like mobile phone, TV, the inner working of how the device actually works, not the ornamental design of it, the components of it. Sorry.
Okay. No, thank you. Do you want to add any benefit of your wisdom to this discussion? So maybe we can then move on to the next one. If someone who has never even considered becoming entrepreneur until they came to the U.S., because in your case, I see a very strong pattern that you were a lawyer, now you're a jewelry designer. But in the case of the three of you, there's a strong technical expertise prior to launching into your own business. So what would you say to someone who says, I'm a first-time entrepreneur, never been an entrepreneur, I'm in the U.S., and now I want to break into the market. Do you have any
I'd like
words
to
of
answer
wisdom?
that, Yvonne. So I see this my husband is, as I said, with the World Bank. So we when we volunteer with WBFN, with the World Bank Family Network, we meet on an ongoing basis. We meet many people that come from different backgrounds and want to start their own businesses. I'd say resources like WBFN, where you have people that have done it and are in your situation. They came, they were very successful. They are very successful in their own fields. But you have people within us, within this group in the World Bank that have recently, I mean, Ross is an example, many others that some of them are not here, but they just had gone through that process. So they have very updated information on what you would need to do, all sort legally structures, all this information, and they can be a resource for you. I would say use WBFN and people in the WBFN. It's a good resource.
Depending on what industry you're interested in, DC has a lot of incubators as well. There's tech incubators, there's food incubators. They're always looking for people to handle some sort of jobs, whether it's like as a contractor or as like lower level staff. So if you're interested in the industry, it's good to actually reach out to the incubators. They also have like a lot of events and stuff like that, networking, so you can go and meet people in those fields. And it's a great way to kind of not only like find other people in the industry, but to figure out if it's like a right fit for you. So.
Piggyback.
Sure, please.
I seem to be piggybacking off these great ideas. DC. Oh, thank you very much. DC is becoming a second Silicon Valley, I feel like. I mean, there is a startup meetup everywhere. I recommend you guys go to it, because I decided to go to this before I started my law firm, and when I saw a 17, because I was always afraid to leave a traditional path of having a secure job, having a secure paycheck. At the time I had just gotten married, we just had our baby. It just didn't, everything seemed to indicate, and I'm risk adverse guy. Lawyers, I think, typically are very risk adverse, right? So everything pointed toward the opposite direction until I went to these meetups, and I saw the 17-year-old, 18-year-old had these great ideas. And not necessarily they didn't have the expertise, but they felt a long lost need for something. And they're like, wouldn't it be better if? They always started with that question, wouldn't it be better if? So, and I assume each one of us have all of those, some of that questions answered, and we have ideas about it. And we just, at least for me, we are afraid sometimes to pursue it. So if you go to these meetups, they could be great encouragement. You get to also you find your teammates. I think these are the good things you can do. Just Google meetups in DC, 100 different types would come, food meetups, tech meetups, and just join. It's for free. And then they have monthly meetup groups, and you can just go to that, and it just gives you a great idea. Because what I guess I want you to take away from this, you don't need to have the expert. You already do. You already feel something is missing in this world. There is a void to be filled. Trust me, there is still a lot to be innovated. We just have to dream and dream big. And then if you put your mind to it, I think you are gonna be in a much better place. You're in a happy place, much happier place, because you feel like you make a difference in the world, I think.
Yeah, your question. I know you've been dying to ask, and then I'll get to you, Samu. You put your hand up just now.
Of incubators. Is there a website or anything
Google
you can
DC
recommend?
incubator in whatever industry you're interested in, and you'll find plenty of hits. Like there's several food and tech incubators from 1776 to Union Kitchen if you're interested in food. Those are the industries that I've worked with. I don't know what other incubators there are, but the meetups are there's a meetup for literally like every niche group there in DC.
And a lot of venture capitalists come to these meetups. So if you have, that's why people go. They pitch their ideas. You pitch your idea. Once you have an idea, you put a presentation, 5-minute presentation. No, 3 minutes actually. You put a thank you. You should be here. 3 minutes presentation, and then people approach you. Oh, we really like your idea. Can we invest in it? I've seen it happen many times. It's just market is changing. Traditional path to job is ending, I think.
Samu?
Okay, thank you, Yvonne. I have a question regarding this let's say we have a gadget which this world really needs. And that was a great idea to go to this business incubator. But shouldn't we first protect it with you somehow before we go to these meetings and let the rest of the world get to know about it?
Absolutely. I'm sorry, what's your name?
Samu.
Samu. Hi, Samu. I did a terrible job of advocating going to meetup. The very first thing you want to do is to protect your ideas, okay? So you don't want to disclose your ideas because as soon as your innovation, as soon as you disclose, you pretty much dedicate your idea to the public everywhere in the world except US. US gives you 1 year grace period from public disclosure, whether via presentation, offer for sale, what have you, 1 year till you file your patent application from public disclosure. But I recommend you definitely file a patent, even if it's provisional, cheap provisional application, which we call, protect it, and then put a presentation. The suggestion I had about going to meetup is to learn from others what to do, how to present. Even ideas may come to you as you learn from their ideas. As I hear my peers, for example, talking about things come to me, and that's why I piggyback off their great ideas. So absolutely, I think Samu, that's a great point.
Yes. So can we take one more question on this topic?
So yes, just on the same topic, because I had the same question. When you talk about protecting the idea, let's say you file for a patent, we know that it's kind of expensive, it takes a long time, maybe a month or years, but you still want to progress and move forward in your thinking. Mm-hmm. So what about this PPA idea? What are the pros and cons? Meaning that it's like a shorter process or to file or apply, but then you still have to do it correctly, because I heard that if it's not done correctly, your idea is it disclosed to the public once you file the PPA? I mean, how does that work?
Mm-hmm. Great question. Well, there are several mechanisms. That's correct. So the patent office is quite backlogged, and which means once you file your application, you have to wait on average about a couple of years before even you get the first response from the patent office, first substantive examination of your application, what I would say. But once you file your application, as soon as you file it, you can say on your idea patent pending, and that attracts attention. That's one of the first questions any investor would ask. Hey, have you protected your intellectual property? The answer is yes. I have a patent pending, and here is my idea. Nobody can copy it. Yeah, it's going to go through a long process of being registered as a patent, but they don't really care about that. They just want to make sure, okay, you have taken steps towards safeguarding your innovation. Now, if you really want to expedite and get a patent sooner, like any government entity, USPTO has mechanisms for that. It says, okay, pay me extra fee, $2,000 for individual inventors, small companies, small entities, and within a year you will have a conclusion of your case. Either they give you a patent or no. Likely you will get something from the PTO if you have a good patent attorney.
Okay. So I think maybe in the interest of time, we move to the third question, and then maybe we have time to loop by. I apologize. It's very interesting, but the clock is against me. So can you describe a typical day in your life as an entrepreneur? What does your day look like?
It's very different every single day. So today, my day started at 4:30 because we have catering, retail, and then I had some wholesale accounts to tackle, and then it'll end at 10 tonight because we have 2 rounds of service for Caviar and Uber Eats. But at the same time, I'm my own boss, which makes it all worthwhile. So, yeah.
Adriana?
My days, I am my own boss, so it requires a lot of discipline. What my day looks like, I try to, I try to have consistency every day, but I have so many things that I have to complete and tackle that it makes it difficult. I think what is important for me is to create that consistency at work. I try to stay now. I used to work 6 days a week before, and 8 a.m. until 7 p.m. but I was working for my business. So it was encouraging. I loved it. It was thrilling, but it's been now 5 years with the same business, and now there's some consistency created. So now I try to have some work-life balance. I'm at the point where I work and then I finish and I go home and I'm with my kids. And so like Ross, every day really looks different. But I also have the benefit of having my own schedule and making my own hours.
What about you?
Well, if you are, yes, I'm learning. I'm a slow learner, but I'm learning. If you ask my wife, she would say I'm one of those people, ladies that lunch, or I just go to lunch every day, she thinks. But most of my day actually is business development. One of the difficulty of having your own business is, and one of the, I think the tough thing is you have to make sure your family kind of grows. If you are a team, if you're one person, your family stays the same. You're still providing for that family. But if you become 5, 10, now more people rely on you to for you to give them work, pay them every month. So a stress level goes up. My daily life is networking, meeting people, meeting startup companies. We work with a lot of startups, reaching out to other tech companies that are looking for patent counsel. But other than that, reviewing the work that the team has done and emails. It's just very flexible hour. But at the end of the day, I feel much better about it every day than I used to be a partner at a big firm, because I think it's just my business. So I feel like it's a legacy that I'm going to leave behind. Hopefully, for example, my son wants to adopt it. That would be great. He can. I feel like I'm doing this for myself and something bigger than myself now, hopefully. So that's me.
So does anybody have a question to that? Yes.
Thank you very much. That was very, very useful. I want to ask a question about the issue that has not been discussed over here. As the spouses of the bank employees, as well as the people who come from different countries, I'd like to believe that we all have good heart and good intentions to do some kind of good things, right? And that, I was surprised that one of the entities that has not been covered is actually an NGO. Because all of us have wonderful ideas how to help people in our less fortunate countries, let's put it this way. And I was thinking that actually creating an NGO with a good social cause while you are here and taking advantage of being in the United States to develop the network and actually raise the money to do good things in our own countries would be a good idea. So I wanted a little bit of light of what are the pros and cons of setting NGO versus LLC or S corp. What are the obligations under the IRS law, and how hard it is to maintain versus just creating a business entity? Thank you.
Sure. Well, an NGO is an entity that can be either a tax-exempt entity or just a regular entity. So if it's a regular entity, everything else that we've said today applies. It can be a C Corp, an S Corp, an LLC, whatever, and it can then operate overseas subject to the foreign country regulations. If you wish to take contributions that are tax deductible to Americans, you're going to have to apply for what is called 501c3 status. And that actually is a fairly simple process if you are going to raise below a certain amount of money each year, which is $50,000. If you're going to raise more than that, then you're going to typically need an attorney to file for you. And again, very recently they came out with a 501c3 easy, just like a easy tax for the smaller entities. So that's one way that we like to advise people to go if they're just starting off. And then later on, if they want to try to take more than $50,000 in contributions each year, they can go to the next level, and they have to file more annual reports, and there's a higher level of supervision by the IRS. So basically what you're going to do, you're still going to have to form typically an LLC or corporation, and then you file for the 501c3 and you say, okay, we're an NGO. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Yes, again, it's a tax issue, really, in the United States, because an NGO is just a company. Whether the company whether you want to be able to take deduction or contributions from people who can deduct it on their tax return, you have to go to the 501c3.
You know, earlier in the conversation before the NGO, when we were talking about the day in the life of an entrepreneur, all three of you said how much you enjoyed being your own boss, and you talked about legacy. So that's the pros. What is the downside? The upside is doing as you please with no boss. What's the downside?
You can go, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure, yeah.
What I need to control also is because I'm so into what I'm doing, I need to take care of my family. And so it's that, you know, it's thrilling, it's exciting, it's exhausting, it's emotional. And so when you get your heart into what you're doing, it's very difficult to then break and then go into something else. So for those of us that are women and have children, and those of us who have children, women or men, I mean, for me, it's important to have work-life balance, and that's very challenging because I love what I do, and so it's to break and now another thing that is maybe along the same lines is discipline, as I said before, because you are starting a business, and I'm thinking about my very first years. I was working 6 days a week, very long days. Also, like Babak, I'm thinking, you know, this could be something I can leave to my children. So that's a huge incentive for me, but it was nonstop work and my family is neglected. So it's the consistency and the discipline to know this is where I'm ending, and now my family needs my full attention, because it's also very easy to be there physically but have work in your mind all the time. So it's just, yeah, that balance.
Yeah, I mean, those are some valid points. I would definitely like emphasize the emotional aspect to it. Me and my two business partners, we understand that for our employees, it's just a job, but for us, it's our entire life. So us three, we're connected pretty much 24/7. We text at 2 in the morning, 4 in the morning. We're always, like, to us, this is our entire life. We have nothing else besides this. For our employees, they clock in, they clock out, and we have to understand that to them it's just a job, and, you know, so like there's that emotional component to it.
If I may
Sure,
add.
please.
So when you have employees, and I do also have employees, it's also, I mean, you're not just responsible for your business, but I feel responsible for them. So that's even more pressure in your mind to the people that are working under you. And it's important to just feel that, that they feel challenged and that they want to buy into your idea, I think.
Well, I agree with everything my co-panelists said. And if I may add, I would say I hate billing. That's my nightmare. Every end of every month, I have to worry about billing. I'm just terrible at it, and that's one of the things that I don't like. But again, I will.
All lawyers hate that.
Yeah, no, right. It's just one of those things. But the other thing, I think the stress of having to provide for more than just your family, especially when you start having employees, is something that makes you lose sleep sometimes at night. But overall, I think the plus side outweigh significantly. It becomes your baby. I mean, literally, it becomes your baby. And you do everything for it.
Yes.
I have two questions. It's more than a technical question. It's more than a technical questions. So as I said before, I have a company right now in Guatemala. I know exactly what you're talking about employees and everything, right? And the 2 a.m. make a difference with an 8-hour difference from Spain, which we also work there. So it's kind of a 24-hour round. Now my question is, have you had, what's your advice for me to start up here? How do I tell my clients there that I will not be there for them anymore? And how do I do it here that I will not always be here also? So how do I confront that? I mean,
what's your
I
business?
can't double my person.
What's
I'm
your
a wedding
business?
planner.
I see.
Which they are not looking for the brand. They're looking for me.
Yeah,
Right.
the person.
Well, I think the answer to that, if I might say, would be to be an international jet-setting wedding planner.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because the brand is you.
Yes.
Right. Now the problem is it takes a little bit to get there.
There you are.
Right.
Right. So what we're doing right now is I have the person that's like my right side, right, and that person's there. Now my partner lives there, and the thing of separating over I don't know how long is not such a good idea.
I mean, again, this comes from a. I'm sorry. may I?
No. Yeah, please. No, the question. Go ahead.
This comes
go ahead.
from a business standpoint. At one point or another, you want your brand to be beyond just you. You want the brand to be, yeah. And so the way you do that, just like any other business that grows, is you hire people, or you can't hire people. You bring people as an intern. You teach them your methods, and soon you put them in touch with your clients. Face-to-face contacts. That's what I do. Every one of our clients, I put one person in touch with that client, so they know. But the quality has to be the same. So you have to kind of, with your expertise, is a little bit different. For me, it's paperwork. I have to review every paperwork before it goes. But if you have good employees, better employees than yourself, in my case, then you don't have to be there anymore. Oh, employment agreement is very important. Again, I don't want to get into that because I'm a patent attorney, but I definitely have agreement with all my employees about, again, IP, NDA, trade secrets. These things fall probably under know-how and trade secrets more than patents. So yes, sorry.
I want to, if I may, just add something very briefly.
Sure.
I went through exactly the same thing you're going through right now because I started my business, maybe not in a different country, but I started in the West Coast in California. And I had clients that came for me. And it was very difficult to then say, well, my husband took a job with the World Bank and now I'm moving to the East Coast. And they didn't like it. And some were understanding and some were upset. So I think that I still have many clients. There's attrition. Many clients want you there. They wanted me there. And so because I'm not there, they simply won't be with me. What I've done in my business is I make it very easy for people. I need to go to Los Angeles at least once a year, and I see my clients in LA and face to face. And I also constantly communicate on the phone with them. I don't have anyone there. They are here with me, and we do everything over the phone. I provide WebEx calls. So now we have technology. You can be there, Skype for you. I'm not sure what the technology would be, but be with them. Make sure that they don't feel neglected is what I would say. And I mean, my case was exactly that. 2 years and a half ago, I moved. I left my clients in the West Coast, and I came here. So very similar. Yeah.
And I know for Mason-Dixon, because we can't be in Ohio and Pennsylvania right now, we have a series of brand ambassadors that I personally hired, and I check in on them all the time to make sure that they're telling the right story and the story that I want them to tell the customers. So there are companies out there, but I don't think for wedding planning that's necessarily appropriate. Yeah.
Yes, you have a.
Hi, I work with the World Bank. Over here, sorry. I work with the World Bank, and I have been for a while telling all my friends and anybody who will listen to me that I want to start a business. But my job, for instance, is more than 24 hours a day. And entrepreneurship, as you've described it, for work-life balance seems to be also 24 hours a day. And I'm trying to, I'm also.
But at least you don't have a boss.
Unfortunately, I do. So I can't really take off every day to, start planning my own business. But I was wondering what your recommendation would be for somebody in my sort of situation who's looking at entrepreneurship or looking to get engaged in it, knowing what life is like, especially at the beginning when you have to be so invested and committed to what you do every day. And with the crazy hours we have at the bank, how you go about becoming an entrepreneur and still having a full-time job on the side. I know some people have recommended you do it a little bit and then you quit once the business gets going, but I would like to hear your opinion.
Well, that's actually exactly what I did. I was with KPMG until my nut business really took off. So for like the first several months, it was just, a few hours here, a few hours there, mostly weekends, doing recipe testing. doing all the permitting, the paperwork through the DC government. And it was hard. It will be hard. And then once I reached what I had a personal goal. So once I had hit a certain sales number, and I talked to my partner about this too. So like we came to an agreement, and once I hit that certain sales number, then I exited out of my professional job at KPMG and then started like my own business full time. But it was like pretty much 6 months from the time I like really got going until I completely exited out from my professional life.
Do you all have any other insight to share on that?
I mean, I just add to that along the lines of Ross mentioned. Yeah, I wouldn't dive into the swimming pool. I would just, again, being a lawyer, some people do it and it's fine. I did the same thing. I put my toes in it a little bit, and then I put my one foot in it, and then the other foot. So I did a little by little, got the name. It took me forever to do that. Then did the registration. Then you also have to make sure it's very challenging to go from fixed income to no income. So it's nice to transition, if possible, to have some sort of a revenue. I think as Ross mentioned, once he hits certain sales number, I think the reason he's mentioning that is wanted to make sure, well, there is a continuity of income. Unfortunately, we live in the U.S. Everything you have to pay bills every month to somebody, some bank. And I did the same thing. I kind of made sure that, okay, if I leave, are there clients that I can immediately engage that can result in revenue for me and my family? And that's how it happened. So it happened a little slowly. It wasn't 24 hours immediately, but once I quit, it was 24 hours.
I have sort of a threefold question that I feel like may not have tackled. The first one is, okay, you want to dive into entrepreneurship, partners or no partners, because people have different opinions on whether you want to have a partner or you don't want to have a partner. The second question would be, what would be the best country? Because depending on, you can do analysis of the market. Your idea can be the best thing here, but it can also work better in another place rather than being in DC. So where would you choose to start your business, because you still have connections? And the third one would be, okay, and I'm happy that you had a job before. Okay, how do you put the limit between this is my personal funds, this is where I want to go and sort the money, sort the deal, and okay, how do I put a difference between my business money? Because when it becomes your baby, you may tend to put in more of your personal money and forget about your life. So how do you go into planning, okay, this is what I'm going to do, where I'll wait for a year until I get to a point where I have enough money, or do I go to a bank and take a loan? Mm-hmm. Okay, how do you?
In my case, so the way I did it, the way I changed into this current, what I currently do is I want, as I said at the beginning, I'm kind of in a hybrid situation. I work for a company. I get a W-2. I'm on a company's payroll, but I'm responsible to grow my own business. So it went from very good income before to lower income, because I was beginning something, and then variable income. So no, I didn't go I didn't stop altogether. I just found a way that transitioned me. I always hear, you may have heard this also, that many entrepreneurs start 1, 2, 3, up to 7 business until they are successful. So there's always that, there always has to be that fire in you. I would say, I'm answering kind of all the questions all together, but the time when you want to start your business is when you think you're ready. Regardless of doing too much market analysis and it may be there, maybe here, then experience is so valuable. So if you start something now, then you gain that, if nothing else. That would be my take on that.
Do you all have any?
Yeah, I do have a comment. As far as for market analysis, I kind of take that with a grain of salt. Talked to a lot of entrepreneurs that paid a lot of money to consultants that were completely, the information was completely off the mark, to say the least. So you gotta go sometimes with your gut feeling. So what we did with Mason-Dixie, as market analysis, we actually did a Kickstarter campaign, and we had a threshold of $25,000 we wanted to raise, and if we couldn't do that, then we figured that it wasn't a good idea. So it was almost a free way to do a market analysis, and we got the money. So we like, well, clearly we have a market here, and then we took off from there. So there's ways you can actually get information from potential customers without actually paying for it. So don't go to a firm necessarily right off the bat.
And in my case, I think that, I mean, I had a vision. Yes, you hear you have to have a business plan. All that is true. But there's also paralysis analysis, right? If you analyze to death before you start something, you never start something. So I would say, and I always hear this, better done than, anyway, I don't know, I forget. Better done than perfect. So better to start something and start learning and creating, and then you adjust along the way. Because if you're an entrepreneur, one of the things we need to learn is to be flexible. So, right, I mean, this may not be working, so now I do something else. But if we start and have the perfect scenario, we may never start. So.
I may just couple of my 2 cents. I'm a lawyer, so my license is in D.C. and Maryland, so I was limited to those 2 jurisdictions. So that was easy for me to decide where to incorporate. But our clients are international. They ask me this question a lot. So from myself, it wasn't a dilemma for me. But my clients, especially the startup individual inventors, they say, okay, where should we file a patent application? Should we file it in the US? Should we file it in Europe? Should we file it in Africa? Where do you think we should file it? And I asked them, well, where do you think your market is? Where is your biggest market, especially if budget is an issue? And if their answer is everywhere, well, we think this is going to have a worldwide application, then I suggest if the budget is not an issue, let's file a worldwide protection, or at least what we call a PCT application that gives you an international coverage, but delays all the costs for 30-some months, in which case you can get investors in order to invest. But if they say, no, we don't see outside, most of the startups invest heavily in the US market. It seems to be the biggest market, especially for them. So they say, no, we don't see, we think there is market outside it, but our main market is in the US. Then I say, okay, I would just stick to the US. And if you raise enough fund, then we have 1 year from your filing to decide which other countries you want to go into. So at the end of the day, I would turn the question back to the startup owner and say, okay, where do you think your main market is? What is the budget? And those 2 kind of dictates the answer.
Thank you. I think we have time for one last question.
Yeah, I just had a comment on what Ross and Adriana said, because in our event 2 weeks ago, our keynote speaker, Professor Green, said that in the past, people used to start a business by, doing the business plan. And they spend a lot of time doing the business plan. But nowadays, it's different, the way it's been doing. So first of all, you need to taste the market. And what you did is exactly something that he said. So not to delay the idea by, doing too much plan, and not doing anything after 5 years. So that just remind me your comment.
Yeah, for our business, we had a business plan, but it was a pretty simple document that just had our ideas on paper. And we haven't touched it in 2 years. Because after that, it literally just provided some structure for us. And then after that, the business took a life on its own. Wholesale was going to be such a small revenue center for us. It's by far our biggest revenue center. So obviously the business plan helped us in the very early stages, but after that, you got to be able to, as a good entrepreneur, be flexible and, be able to see where the market's going and be able to react to it before anyone else does.
So before we finish, I have just one last closing question for the 3 of you. If you had to do it again, what would you do more of and what would you do less of?
I have to think about that.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
I cheated. I saw these questions last night, and I wanted to see what at 2 a.m. I wrote, and I have one word here: sooner. Okay, I would have started sooner. I think the fear as I said, I'm a risk-adverse person, and that always prevented me from chasing my dreams. My dreams was to work with the startups, work with individual inventors, and the big company that I was working, great company, great law firm, just big law firms. At least my law firm wasn't working with, couldn't work with the structure, with the startup because of the limited budget that the startups have or the individual inventors have. So I decided to say, okay, you know what, this is not for me, I'm gonna do this. And I left. Most of my clients came with me, and I started doing what I really love, working with a lot of startups. Again, within the past year, we have done more than 100 startups. We work with more than 100 individual inventors, a lot of startups too. And I love it. I just love it.
We've had some, like, with Mason-Dixie, we've had some abysmal failures. Like, we've had some terrible locations for pop-ups. We had some products that really did not do very well, but we wouldn't change that because that helped us to find our successful locations, and it helped us to find our successful products. I don't know. I wouldn't do more or less of anything because we would not be where we at if we did not take the path that we did and have the failures that we had under our belt.
And for me, I couldn't think of anything until Babak said sooner, absolutely. And that's what I always say. I wish I had done this sooner because I always had that, as I said before, nagging feeling, okay, not ready because, I'm not ready because, and then one day I said, okay, I'm ready. And I would, in retrospect, I would start it this sooner, so I would agree with you.
Well, so we will have more time for questions. So I would like to officially close the panel because Babak has to leave. So with that, we want to thank Babak, Adriana, and Ross for coming, and to all of you as well, and Daniel and Alisha. And so we hope that this session has given you ideas to chase your dream, to make you start sooner, and not to fear failure. And we really hope that through those three themes that you would have got something from it. So please don't go. They'll be here for now. It's a free-for-all. Questions? His first question.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's lunchtime.
I had biscuits. I brought some out.
Oh,
didn't realize how many
thank you. I just can't wait to taste them now that I've heard so many things about it.
all the Whole Foods in the region, frozen aisle.
Yep, saw that.
Yeah.
You want to say something before questions?
Yeah, before we continue, I would just like to thank a few people and make a couple of announcements. Once again, the World Bank Family Network would like to thank our keynote speakers, Daniel and Alisha, thank you, and our panelists, Babak, Adriana, and Ross. And thank you, Ross, for bringing your goodies. Really enjoyed it. And please, on your way out, you can pick business cards from Daniel and Alisha and brochures from Ross and Daniel. As Yvonne said, we hope this interesting and informative sessions has provided enough excitement to put your ideas into action. We would like to really thank the organizing team, Matuna Mostafa of the World Bank Family Network, Marianella Morales of the IDB Family Association, and Suzette Bradbury of the IMF Family Association. Also, thank you to Dania Al-Kibi, who the managing partner of Base Tree Studio and a World Bank Family Network member, for providing graphic design support. And really a big thank you to all our volunteers for their help today. So a couple of announcements. We would like to invite you to register for the two upcoming entrepreneurship events. The first one will be on Monday, June 6th, and it's the third event in this series. And it will be focusing on marketing your business. And this event will be sponsored by the IMF Family Association. And on Wednesday, June 15th, a related event of further interest to entrepreneurial members will be hosted by the World Bank Family Network. And this workshop will be given by the U.S. Small Business Administration of the Washington metropolitan area. And you will learn about information and resources for people starting their own businesses. So for more information and to register, please visit the World Bank Family Network website and follow our Facebook page for updates and event coverage. Well, see you all at the next event, and thank you for coming. Thank you.